My name is Christo. I'm a product manager for Reuters Video Services, and I take care for both broadcasters and digital publishers. And by far the coolest part of my job is that I get to speak and see with lots of customers, understand what their challenges are, and also be in the know of how they are going about to overcome their challenges. And there are a lot of challenges around here, around media these days. There is a disruption caused by the new technologies, but there is also a lot of innovation, and innovation in storytelling, in the mediums, in the fact that we are using a lot of different ways of storytelling today. So this is what I want to talk to you about, and I want to go through several different publishers and broadcasters to see how new storytelling is having a great time at the moment. So I want to start with a quote from an innovator in storytelling. This is Charles Dickens, and this is the start of a novel. It's A Tale of Two Cities, and it's set in revolutionary France. And he's an innovator in storytelling because he started and popularized the fact of doing a novel in parts, serial noveling, and putting it onto newspapers. And what he has to say about revolution is this. It's a time of contradictions. There is great opportunity, but there is also great challenges. So I think that this quote is particularly apt to describe what is going on at the moment in the media industry. So it's the best of times. As a consumer, I'm getting great service. I'm getting all this news from different places, different perspectives all around the world, and I'm getting it all for free. Excellent. But it is also a great time to be a producer or a small producer of news and media. As a small competitor, you can actually get the same global audience that the New York Times gets. You know, you're getting the world. So it's great for a small upstart. Also, the cost of publishing an extra article to publish an extra video has never been lower. And it's going to be lower still when it comes ahead. And finally, you get access to all these incredible experts around the world that are doing it for the love. So as a producer of news, you are able to get high level of content out for very cheap to a global audience. It is also the worst of times if you're a producer of news. So you are getting all this audience, but so is everyone else. So it's like a competition for audience, for the attention, for the eyeballs of people. I think the latest stats about YouTube is that every minute you get 300 hours worth of content up on YouTube. So the challenge really in this day and age is how do you make your content stand out? How do you get it to be seen by the most people? And this fragmentation, of course, leads to a loss in revenue. You have less audience. The monopoly of established news is going down. The newspapers and broadcasters are not anymore the only game in town. And therefore, we're seeing the quote is analog dollars to digital pence, basically taking down of the revenue. So it's a challenging time. It's the age of wisdom. It's the times when journalism has been at the best level we've ever seen it. And this is because there is access to data, public information that is unparalleled in history. Reuters makes big use of data. We have recently uncovered how a small amount of judges in the US have an incredible amount of power over the whole judicial system as a whole. Or in Sweden, one of our customers has been able to link pollution of power plants to rivers. And this is all possible only because we have data, and we are doing it now today. And also, it's an age of wisdom because things that weren't published before are now being published. And it's because we are aggregating the interest in the world, and even niche subjects obtain a great audience if they are detailed enough. But it's also the age of foolishness. We're having, I'm not going to lie to you, like the internet is full of cats and cute babies and listicles and all these things that are competing with the age of wisdom. They're competing with the fact that we are having some serious conversation, and then we're having the color of the dress. And how we address this, how we can actually get our content out there and being clicked and being selected instead of the light-hearted things is one of the big challenges. And another big challenge is obviously that trends are unpredictable. So things go viral for no apparent reason apart from being picked up by lots of people. So we have to be reactive and very good at being able to react to those trends. It's the epoch of belief. It means that, because of this new technology, we have great hope that the media can fulfill even more its purpose of making people aware and encouraging them to act and change things in the system. And this has been very prominent in the fact that we have been seeing, Baltimore protests around the world being fueled by media and being kind of championed by new media. And it's also the epoch of incredulity. People don't believe the established media anymore. The recommendations around, what to read come from Facebook, come from Twitter, come from all other sorts of things, except for the main page of, an established newspaper that you might have been reading ages ago. So in this world, you have to compete, and your content will live and die only on its own strength. And that's the challenge that many people are having. So on the background of all these trends that we're seeing a lot of innovation in how to overcome this. And today I have chosen 3 companies that I think are doing it pretty well. I chose one company from the publishing world, a newspaper turned online digital. I chose a broadcaster, and I also chose a new app that does things, so that you can see different approaches of how to do things. And all of these will be seen in the optics of how they covered a particular topic in the last year. And the topic is inequality. It has been a big year for inequality. It was a topic that Davos was very looking into because of the Oxfam report, etc. So the first example is The Guardian. The Guardian is an old newspaper. It started in the 1800s. It is one of the main newspapers in the UK. But what problem did they have? They had the problem that in this day and age, to break news, you cannot just be a newspaper. You cannot just rely on the time that you publish it every day. News are broken online constantly on the 24/7 news cycle. And what The Guardian is doing is it has decided to scrap the way in which they were doing things before and move to a system in which you had the Guardian website being a 24/7 news channel pretty much, covering live news with live video, live blogs, having all this interactivity. You can see here, this is their coverage for the election, which is very linked, very interactive, and very multimedia. And then they have the other type of kind of content, which is, I would call it lean back content, which is kind of long form, opinion pieces, commentaries, and they relegated that to the paper. So the response for The Guardian was to go live, go and compete against established broadcasters and go with video first and pictures. How they covered inequality, that's quite interesting. So they also do something that is quite uncharacteristic for publishers. They started doing serial documentaries as well. So they completely went broadcast onto the broadcasters and kind of went into their market by using these trends, these possibilities that they have created. And the example that I give here, and unfortunately we cannot play it today, but it's a 10-minute documentary, and it's called The Tale of Two Kensingtons, and it's about Kensington, London, which is one of the most expensive places in the world, and then Kensington, Liverpool, which is one of the poorest places in UK at least. And the tale was told so personally, so kind of first person, that it was very shareable. It drew lots of traffic to The Guardian, and then it kept going with the commentary in there. So I think that The Guardian is basically taking advantage of the fact that they can now have a platform to publish their video, and is using it in two separate ways. It's doing it for the lives, and it's doing it for long-form journalism, something that is completely experimental. The second case study is the BBC, which is an old-school broadcaster, a national broadcaster of the UK, and their mission is to reach everyone in the UK, just to justify, the taxes that the UK spends. And BBC has an issue that lots of broadcasters have, and it's the issue of aging population. So people watching the news on TV or just watching TV, they're getting older and older. Young people are they're not going to be sitting at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in front of the TV and watching a news bulletin. So the challenge for the BBC and broadcasters worldwide, in fact, is to reach those younger audiences and get them interested in the news and what they do. And the BBC is doing interesting things, and initially it was kind of a crude approach. It was doing basically whatever they did for the broadcasters, they put it up online, and that didn't work at all. What they're now doing is having this more interactive way of presenting things where they have a mix of media. You have some videos, you can see that some of them are 15 minutes long over here, and then you have some 156 minutes long. So you have a very mix and match. You have some infographics and some articles. And the key here in the BBC's case study is that the infographic is very based on a young audience. So it was called Ronaldo versus you. And it's basically showing how you compare to Ronaldo in terms of revenue, of income. And that's the hook. Like, you are personally involved, and you can share that with people. So what you would do there is you would put your income, and you would say, I earn $30,000 or whatever. And then it would give you all these kind of funny, shareable quotes that says, it would take you a century and a half to make whatever Ronaldo is making this year, or Ronaldo just made your salary in 2 hours, so something like that. And that's very immediate, and it just cuts through a lot of stuff that otherwise you wouldn't get from a normal news reportage. So the BBC is suddenly going into a publisher space as well. So we are seeing this kind of blurring of lines between what the publisher is doing, what the broadcaster is doing, and this is what the platform is kind of is all about. And finally, I want to share the case study about Al Jazeera Plus. Al Jazeera Plus is a new mobile app that is based, obviously, from Al Jazeera, but it's very pinpoint focused on getting young, urban people talking about serious issues, but doing it in a young and different voice. And that passes also not only from the content, but it's also passing through the platform and the way it's doing it. So Al Jazeera Plus is only available on mobile, by the way. So that's kind of restricting the access to people that are, highly targeted. And what I think AJ Plus is doing very well is aggregating and in a way being a content kind of curator. So I'm giving you the example here. So they're having, like, with a flick of the thumb, you can go around and see different tiles. So this one, for example, is getting content from CNN Money and the AP, and then you have another piece from Pew, and then you have a video from Al Jazeera Plus, and then you have your opinion. What do you do? And that encourages you as a mobile user to go up on their Facebook page and start engaging with them. And it basically takes you in, and you're looking into content that is very serious, but you're doing it in a way that is fresh and that is reaching new audiences. So here is another video by the Al Jazeera, an Oxfam report. Everything is linked, by the way. Pew Research is going through. And then finally, you have another video by Al Jazeera. So you see there is a lot of content. And if you only have 2 seconds, flick through it, you get the idea, you think about ideas, and then you can go back and vote, for example, about some serious issues that we have there. So the idea here is that we are getting a multimedia experience, and we're getting an engaging experience, and that's very key to kind of drive traffic, corner your market, and keep people there, even though you send them to different sites and getting content back. So those are the learnings. We have, if you're in doubt about publishing something, you should publish it because it doesn't cost you much. You will probably find a niche, and you're probably going to be riding a trend that will get you out there and be there. I mean, let the audiences be the judge, because editorial control is not within the editor anymore. It's about the people out there. Is the audience that chooses. It makes a conscious decision every single second about whether to spend time on your thing, or scrolling their Facebook thing, or going on YouTube and checking out a cut video. So let audiences be the judge and produce content. Reach out to your audience is the second piece, which is essentially putting enough time and effort into getting to your audience. Newspapers used to spend enormous amounts of time kind of delivering newspapers on each door. And we don't, we still do that, but there isn't the culture of saying you should spend enough time delivering the news, delivering that piece to the digital door of the people. And that's a key feature that people need to turn around. It's not enough anymore to produce great journalism. You have to produce great journalism that hits the door of the audience that you want to hit. You have to promote the content on the appropriate platform. You have to kind of learn how title works in Facebook and in Twitter, like how to create something that is compelling so that people would go on it. And also consider distributing outside of your properties. The beauty of the internet is that it's an open system. And when you try to close it, you're usually going to lose. So going on several platforms is always a winner. And finally, engage in a conversation. It came out slightly different. But basically, create loyalty in your audience by putting together a good engagement strategy. So open up to comments and be there to answer them. It's not just to have enough to have comments, but you need to be engaged in that. And it's also about creating a brand, not for the newspaper or the publisher or the broadcaster, but for your staff, because it's about the personal one-to-one relationship of the person that created content and the person that is reading it. It's kind of this taking away of the barriers that makes the internet special. So I think these are the trends, a couple of examples, and the learnings. I hope this has been useful, and I'm opening it up to questions if you've got any. Thank you. Yep, we got a question over there.
So, multimedia and video, if you use the example of Al Jazeera Plus, just as an example, but in the interest of telling short, they're about 90 seconds long, I believe, their videos. They're very short, they're very quick, it's a new format, but does that ever compromise the story itself or the content?
Okay, so I'll just repeat the questions because I'm here. So the question is, going short, does it compromise the quality of the journalism? Yeah? Oh, okay, cool. I don't think so. I think there is space in the market for both sides. And I think The Guardian, for example, is doing a great job in doing both. So you have, you will always have people that are checking out the news on their morning commute, or checking out the news in the, waiting for the cashier or something like that. And I think having that hook, that moment in which you get interested in the topic and you see it for the first time and being really captured and possibly to follow up later on is very important. And I think that a lot of the consumption that is going on the internet at the moment, especially on mobile, is short form. But there is also space for in-depth kind of documentaries or more in-depth pieces that can be linked between them. And I think it's about creating an environment in which one follows the other and that they're linked together, and that if a person wants to go in deep into a particular topic, they have the opportunity to do it. But the thing is, we do not control people anymore. We do not say, you should be interested in this, read an article of 5,000 words. It's their choice. And I think having a shorter piece to capture their attention is key to them, get them interested in the wider piece. There is one question over there.
Hi. You just talk about the new trends in journalism, but there is one trend which is for online newspaper like Huffington Post. They have live studio.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this trend? I mean, it's gonna change the journalism, or it's gonna mix, let's say TV and the news storytelling, manners. So what do you think about this trend?
So if I can repeat the question again, you're saying...
Huffington Post, they have live studio that discuss the topics and the news that publish in Huffington Post. So can we consider that live Huffington Post TV studio is a new trend for journalism? And do you think it's going to change the journalism?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. So the question is about having, Huffington Post has a live kind of studio now and is doing kind of original content production, and like how is that affecting and how it's going to develop? Is it going to be successful? Okay, so I think that live has the potential of being very important. I think that it is the part of media that is currently not commoditized. So to have the ability of commenting something in real time, to produce footage from the scene in real time is incredibly powerful. And I think that it can bring together audiences in ways that perhaps other kind of mediums cannot. And I think it's interesting because it's not only the Huffington Post that is creating studios. It is, the Sun in the UK is creating some. It's the New York Times, the Washington Post. Everybody is trying to see how this will pan out. And I think, there will be. It's a moment in which people are trying to see new things and what will fly. And I think a lot of them will decide, no, it's not for me actually at the end of the day. But I think that some organization, maybe the Huffington Post, maybe the Guardian, will be able to kind of be the place where you get 24/7 news online. And they will be the winners eventually. And it's about really kind of targeting your audience. And if your audience is hungry for 24/7 news and they want to go join you at that point, it's about finding that kind of real voice and talking to your customers one-to-one. And I think, they may potentially be very big because they have the audience to go for it. Thank you. There is another question over there.
Thank you for your presentation. You showed us some examples of the rise of video and the new formats. But my question to you is, to what extent you believe that those new formats are able to generate revenue as much as the print and traditional broadcast used to generate?
Used to have, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that, sorry, the question for everyone is do we think that new storytelling formats will deliver revenue the same way that old media used to do? And I think that it's not really about the formats that revenue will come. I think that what we need to understand is that the revenue going to old media is declining. And it's declining because less people watch it. and less people kind of read the newspaper on a daily basis. Circulation is going down, broadcasting is going down, and people are spending more and more time online and doing things and consuming content, ever-increasing content online. So the question there is, who is going to get the more audience, and who is going to be able to get the valuable metrics and user engagement that brands want to take? And I think that having an innovative format, having people, young people going and join, which is, by the way, the most coveted of advertising revenue, right? Like the 18 to 35 people with no kids, lots of disposable income, you know, that want to consume, that want to get the new stuff. Those are the people that advertisers are really caring about. And if you're not having a strategy to engage with those people, then yeah, you're going to lose money in the long term. And I think a second piece is we're seeing that a lot of new storytelling formats are being used by brands themselves to contact and get to in front of the eyes of the individual users. So they're becoming publishers themselves. And I think that that's also a part of a revenue stream that it was not there before, but will become more and more in the future for publishers, definitely.
Hi. Does this mean there will be less job opportunities on the short term or even on the long term because as a result of these new formats? Before we used to have maybe more employees doing one job. Now we can have one person doing multiple stages of the job until we have the finished product, which is the online piece. So do you think this will result in less job opportunities in the media?
Okay. So the question, as far as I understand it, is: do I think that because people are becoming less specialized and doing more, is that going to mean less job opportunities for a young person starting up? I think no, is the short answer. But I think that for sure there is this trend. There is definitely a trend in which a new graduate of journalism is not going to be a person that knows how to write really well, or take a picture really well, or take a video really well. I think that what journalism schools are going to be teaching in the future is how to tell a story, and how to tell a story in different formats and in different kind of ways that interact with the audience. And I think that in general, I feel that maybe the jobs in established media kind of companies are going to go down, understandably, but I also think that there will be opportunities for a wider set of people to enter journalism in a non-conventional way, like having a YouTube channel or going and joining a new kind of new media venture. And I think there is going to be a rebalancing from old to new. And I think it's going to be great to be a young person, because I think that you will have the skills and knowledge and the instinct of how to approach that in a different way. So hopefully that will be good. One there.
Okay, I understood that the BBC and The Guardian managed to solve part of the problem of an aging population by doing some modernizations and updating and so on. But regarding the Arab world, I think the same is not happening here, with the exception of Al Jazeera maybe. But we're having the same problem of an aging population. I don't know how familiar are you with this part of the world, I mean, regarding the audience and so on, but how would you view the future of this aging population, because they will fade away one day, but attempts are not done here, you know, for this update. So how do you think we can solve this?
Okay, so the question is, if I may, how does this compare within your region, right? It's you know, you're saying that there is an aging population problem in the broadcasting. How do I kind of get more of this happening? So I think that the Middle East actually presents a great opportunity in terms of new media. And it's for a variety of reasons. I think, first of all, you actually do have a very big young population in the Middle East. It's definitely in the majority, and it's only going to grow. So that's one factor that is really important in terms of digital and growth in digital. The second piece is that you share a language, right? Like Arabic is actually a very scalable language, pretty much like English. The reason why, for example, America or the US is very much ahead in the kind of digital world and media world is because they have a huge market. They have 300 million people caring about the same thing, speaking the same language, and kind of having a major trend in there. And I think that this is something that does also play in the Middle East, having a market that speaks the same language and largely has similar interests. And I think that this is something that is going to grow in the Middle East. I think probably the timeline is going to be a bit shifted, probably. I think that new media is only starting up, but I think that it's going to also be very successful in the region as well. Good. All right. Well, thank you very much for your attention. And if you have any more questions, I'll be right there. Thank you.